Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Hilliard, and tonight I'm here to persuade you that assault weapons should not be banned or outlawed. Did you know that, according to the FBI, you're 10 times as likely to be murdered by fists, knives, or a blunt object than by an assault weapon? I want to let you know tonight that these assault weapons have so much more purpose than the taking of human lives. In fact, assault weapons are not designed to take human lives at all. I think I'm a credible source for this because a couple of years ago I bought my own AR-15, which qualifies as an assault weapon um, by the definitions at TexasGunLaws.org. That gun has committed 0 violent crimes, and it's going to stay that way forever. So tonight I want to challenge you to challenge the social norm, which fears these weapons. I want to persuade you that these weapons have a place in our culture, and they shouldn't be feared. First, I want to define just what an assault weapon is. So an assault weapon does not include a fully automatic weapon. Those are called machine guns, and according to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, a machine gun is any weapon which shoots more than one projectile under one pull of the trigger. Machine guns have been illegal to manufacture since 1986. However, they are legal to own, but those weapons have to have been manufactured before the ban in 1986. They're heavily registered and monitored by the ATF, and they might run you about $10,000, maybe 2 or 3 times that. On the contrary, these assault weapons, they're not defined by the ATF, but typically we assume they're AR-15s or AK-47s or anything that looks like these types of weapons. They're typically semi-automatic, and they typically have what we call high-capacity magazines. Assault weapons have been legal to own since 2004, after the expiration of the Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Use Protection Act of 1994. The price to own such a weapon is around $1,000. So we know what they are. Now what are they good for? These weapons are protecting us. So-called assault weapons are used by civilians daily in the protection of our ecosystem from feral hogs. According to John Worthland of the Smithsonian, feral hogs could cause up to $400 million in ecosystem damage every year in Texas. According to Mr. John McAdams of Wide Open Spaces, stats show that because they gestate so quickly, we have to kill 7 out of every 10 hogs just to keep the population where it's at. And that population is at 1.5 million currently. Assault weapons are also being used daily by heli hunters, contracted feral hog eradication professionals, and amateur hunters alike to help humanely cull the dangerous populations. Assault weapons are ironically more heavily utilized in the defense of houses and businesses and in civil disorder situations than in invasions or assaults. Assault weapons are consistently used in these situations, and here are some examples. In January, there was an apartment break-in in Rochester, New York. An RIT student held off an invader, and nobody was killed. In February, an attempted robbery of a tax office in Detroit was stopped with the use of an AR-15 from a security guard. He fired 2 warning shots, and nobody was killed. In April, there was a home intrusion in Philadelphia. The break-in resulted in the husband, who was the homeowner, firing on the intruder, which ended up causing his death. Now, we know why these assault weapons are beneficial, but are they still used to murder? They're still used to murder innocent people. How do we stop murderers without outlawing these assault weapons? Well, that brings me to our third main point. If assault weapons are outlawed, the senseless murders are not going to stop. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. We've learned that these weapons have their benefits, but does that really just justify them? I think it's important to remember that it's human action that kills people. The guns aren't autonomous. They don't sprout legs and go shoot people. Also, killers are just going to move on to the next weapon. Evil people are always going to exist. Mindless people are going to always be looking to kill somebody else. They might move on to chemical or biological weapons, or maybe bombs, Or maybe they'll get primitive and use their fists, like we mentioned earlier. But outlawing assault weapons is not going to keep these people from getting their hands on these said weapons. So to conclude, assault weapons really have no grounds on which to be outlawed. Assault weapons are not necessarily fully automatic. They're typically semi-automatic and used every day to protect our livelihoods and ourselves. If we were to outlaw them, though, we'd find that these senseless killings would still occur, and evil people are still going to continue to find ways to do their bidding. If you thought that assault weapons ought to be banned, I plead that you reconsider. Former Vice President Joe Biden stated himself that it's true that the vast majority of gun deaths in America are not the consequence of the use of an assault weapon. So I leave you with the challenge. Remember and consider thoroughly the words of 4th President James Madison. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not ever be infringed.